savvy marketing. She has a well-rounded business background within SMB and enterprise organizations, as well as over 15 years of experience in sales and online marketing. She provides one-on-one SEO coaching, teaches group on-site workshops, and is an SEO instructor at DIYSEOcourses.com and SEObootcamp.com.
Good morning. We're running off SlideShare, so just bear with me as there we go. When I started with SEO 15 years ago, and yes, it really was 15 years ago, I'm that old, it was so much easier to rank. I mean, it was magical. We could get to page 1 with a lot less effort than it takes today. This is what we thought the world was like in SEO. All you had to do was write some content. Do you all know the Muppet song? This should be going through your head with the Muppet intro, the Muppet song. You just wrote content, you published it, you threw in a little bit of code to make your site look good, and you really could get on page 1 of Google. When I started with SEO, it was truly rainbows, music. We literally did things like hide keywords on the page. I kid you not, I did it, I admit it. You know, you put your font white on a white background, and you filled it with as much keywords as you could down at the bottom of your homepage. That would help you rank back then, as scary as it was. A keyword was just one word, usually. When you went to 2 words, you got really rogue, and you were crazy. Desktop was the only search. People weren't searching on mobile phones. I don't even know if they existed back then. 300 words was a worthy blog post. You could truly rank on page 1 with 300 words. And you could actually buy inbound links. I know that was a question earlier. You didn't have to reach out to people, you could just go buy it. Even better, when you were number 1 on Google, you were really number 1 on Google. There wasn't all this crap at the top and the knowledge graph that took up page 1. There weren't the local maps that dominated page 1. You were literally number 1. And you actually knew where you ranked. You didn't have to question it because personalized search didn't yet exist. We were superstars. I was a superstar, but that was the old days. That's not today. That's not the world that we live in with SEO. We live in a much different world today. Algorithms arrived. Does everyone know what an algorithm is? Google's changes and how they factor your website into search. They changed, and they changed, and they changed. And I think Google changes these 200 data points like 400 to 500 times a year at minimum. And penalties came. And you would all of a sudden just get blown out of search. I myself was removed from Google. At one point, I walked into my office, my corporate office, and the president of the company said, you know, the strangest thing happened. I tried to find us today in the search, and I couldn't. We didn't show up. And that's because I was doing rogue stuff, and I got booted off. And considering that that was 90% of our leads coming into the company, I should have gotten fired. I did not. I kept my job, thankfully, because I had kids to feed. But that was the world that we were living in. Then mobile showed up. And more people search today on mobile than they do on desktop. Websites changed, they needed to become responsive. Coding really started to matter. Voice search arrived, and did you guys know that it's 20% of searches now for Google? How many in here have a Google Home or some other device that they use to do voice searches? I bought one in December because I wanted to try it out, and I wanted to see how Google was using it. We started to truly lose control of SEO, or at least it felt like it. We didn't have good data to make good decisions on because keywords were not provided. Competition became very strong. Information overload happens all the time now because there's so many websites out there and so much content. Go try to find a recipe on Google and you're just inundated with all of these versions, and a lot of times they're just duplicate content. Pandas and penguins arrived with those stinking algorithms, and the knowledge graph showed up at the very top of Google search that took up all the space, that pushed everything else down, and it made it really hard to be on page one, let alone above the fold so someone could actually see your results. Personalized search came. I hate personalized search. It changes everything, and you never really know where you're at. Mobile came, and again, it changed things, and then the stinking malware that is prevalent everywhere, and performance issues. This was me. I stopped doing SEO for a while. When you came to our website, you wouldn't even see it up on, listed in the navigation anywhere. I literally just hid the page because I didn't want to do it. I was so tired of clients coming to me and doing rogue things and buying links and going to Fiverr and then wanting me to fix it, right? And all they wanted to do was chase the green dot in the Yoast plugin. They did, and I hated it, and I stopped doing SEO. But then I realized it really wasn't Yoast's fault. He has a really, really good plugin. The plugin wasn't the issue. The issue was me, and I had lost my love for SEO, and when I did that, I really lost control. I lost control of my destiny. I needed to remind myself that I did do good. I was successful at SEO, and I've been doing it for 15 years, and I could truly start to help people do SEO better. I could teach them how to succeed through making sure that they were helping others. And I needed to remember what truly made me special to begin with. Because when you really focus on what makes you special, and you really focus on helping users, that's when you start to excel at SEO. I needed to remember, too, that I really did steal the show. When I taught myself SEO, I was competing against SAP and Oracle and Microsoft, and very large companies with very large budgets. And I was one person, sitting at home in my pajamas, trying to learn SEO at night, while my daughter watched Teletubbies. And I watched a lot of Teletubbies because I really wanted to learn SEO. It took a lot of time. I mean, back then we didn't have blogs and PDFs from Google that told us what to do. They didn't have this information getting pushed out like they do today to tell us what was right and what was wrong. You had to do trial and error, and that's what I did. And I won. I have stuff still sitting on page one above Microsoft, above SAP, and above Oracle. And the reason I did that was because I was doing the right things. However, I didn't really realize I didn't know I was. Back then, you just didn't know what you were doing which was right unless you did a ton of trial and error and you got yourself booted off Google and among other things. Looking back, I was doing the same thing then that I do today. I was focusing on the visitor and I was providing them solutions to their problems. That's the heart of SEO. That was the heart of SEO 15 years ago, and it's the heart of SEO today. Because I was educating and I was gaining that authority. Gaining authority means telling Google and showing Google that somebody other than your mom reads your blog. And that somebody other than your dog thinks that your website's cool. That's what authority means, and that's the reason that you're doing it, is because you are trying to gain that presence. You're building those links, and you're doing all of these things in SEO to help Google figure out who you are and that you matter to somebody, right? And that has never changed. What has changed are the way people use search. And because people use search differently today than they did before, we need to shift with that. We're still focused on the visitor. We're still focused on helping the visitor find high-quality information and solutions to their problems, whether it be a recipe or it's self-diagnosing yourself with brain cancer because you're on WebMD. We've all done it. Don't tell me you haven't done it. We've all been dying of something one time or another because of what we read on the internet. But what we're doing is we're trying to find solutions. We're trying to find information. I have done this execution. Diane Kinney was talking a lot about strategy and tactics, and that falls right into SEO. The first presentation I sat through today was about usability and accessibility. That is the heart of SEO. This process I did 15 years ago. I still do this process today. Here's where people fall down in SEO. They forget the research, they forget the plan, and they jump over here to optimize the content with the plugin, and they chase the green dot. That plugin is there to help you, but you have to do all of the other things first. And this is what I do. I ask questions about myself, about my visitor, and about how I can potentially help them. I use those questions and I look at data. Google Analytics, Google Search Console. How many in here have a Google Search Console account? For those of you who don't, get one. There is a wealth of information in there for you. If you're not using Google Analytics, you need to make sure that you start using it, because it's that information that you're receiving about where you're showing up in search and where people are trying to find you and what they're doing on your site that helps you be successful. I use that data, I use the questions, and I start researching my competition. I use SEMrush and SpyFu. I go to their websites and I sit in hours and hours and hours. Once I have that, I'm building up my seed list. So the list of potential keywords that someone might search for, and by the way, it's not 1 and 2 anymore. A lot of times it's 4 or 5. 4 or 5 keywords in a row that someone searches for. Some people say, please Google, could you help me find? That's their search now. They even say thank you, which is kind of funny. I say thank you to Google Home, by the way, I can't help it. But once you have your seed list, it could be 25, it could be 1,000. The next is to figure out who really searches for it. Because what you maybe think they search for and what they actually do search for is a totally different thing. I have a client who does bathroom stalls, like public restrooms. It's frightful what people search for with those terms. The general public is weird. We have fetishes and we have fears about public restrooms. But I would never know that if I wasn't looking inside tools to find out that information. I love KW Finder to find out search volumes. If you are struggling figuring out good keywords, sign up for KW Finder. It is relatively cheap. It will not only give you good suggestions for search, it'll show you who's ranking on page 1, and it'll show you why they're ranking. And notice we're still not even writing content yet. The next thing I do is once I have my keywords and I know kind of what I want to go after, and I've validated them against my target market, and do they fit and do they match me, now I start mapping that to my website. Has anyone in here ever done a map of their website or blog from a specific keyword to an individual URL? How many? You're missing out. Here's why you're doing that. You are mapping your keyword to content on your website. You don't take WordPress plugins and just throw them at your website. You figure out the best page on your website for WordPress plugins or for a given recipe. The reason you're doing that is because if you don't know what page to go to for a keyword, neither does Google. And Google won't send them. They won't send anyone. It is not build it and they will come. You have to have that roadmap. And just defining that roadmap as a process, and it's an evolution that continues over time. Always have a specific roadmap for keyword phrases to content. The more you stick with it, the more dedicated you are to it, the more you're going to win. The reason I beat SAP and Microsoft is because they didn't do that. They had a ton of marketers working on the website and blogs, and there were keywords everywhere, but there was no real strategy. Big companies make mistakes. You can beat anybody on the internet. I've proven it. Me and the Teletubbies have proved it. But you need to have a plan. And when Yoast asks you for your focus keyword, how many actually fill it out? What is Yoast trying to do? That plugin's trying to make you pick a destination for a phrase. It now comes back and tells you, you've already used that keyword before. Don't do that. That whole plugin is trying to guide you through this process, but we jump into WordPress, we jump into the plugin, and we forget everything, the planning and the structure. Once you define your keyword and you know where it's going to go and you start writing your content, write good content. Page 1 results isn't 300 words anymore. It's actually 1,700 to 2,500. That's what ranks on page 1 right now. Because people seek information, they seek solutions. There's so much good information out there that the best information is what's going to rank. You need to write that best information. You need to use tools like the Yoast SEO plugin to optimize it. Then once you're done, we go to link building. What does link building do? It's the homecoming queen contest. It's votes for your site. Again, it's to show Google what you do, who you matter to, and that somebody other than your mom reads your blog. That's why you're link building. Don't go buy it on Fiverr. Don't just blanket emails out to 4,000 people. It's not going to work. Be part of the community. You may think that the reason I'm here today is because I love you all, but it's giving me a link into my site. Has anyone ever heard me on a podcast? I pimp myself out to every podcaster out there. Why am I a podcaster pimp? Because it builds links. Every time I'm on someone's podcast, they'll link to all of my sites. I am being part of the community. I'm giving myself freely and helping other people because I'm selfish and I want those links back. It makes a difference. I believe in link building is old-fashioned sales and marketing. Being part of the community in which you live and work will bring you back that authority from the search engines. Social media. Everybody active on social media? I'm assuming yes. Social media makes a huge difference with SEO today. The search engines not only look to see if someone liked your article on Facebook, how many. They not just look at who shared my article on Twitter, they want to see that it's Brian Gardner from Studio Press because he has authority in our industry. That matters. Who's watched a cop show where the kid gets kidnapped and they say the first 24 hours are critical? That applies to content. The first 24 hours of content, get as many links and as many social shares and likes and comments that you can get, because what does that do? It tells the search engines that your content matters. That, again, somebody other than my dog is reading that content. That first 24 hours, the first thing you should do when you hit publish, share it on Twitter, on Facebook, if you're a professional, on LinkedIn, and Google+. Is Google+ dead? No, nobody reads it, but it does help with SEO. What's the second biggest search engine outside of Google? It's not Bing, it's YouTube. YouTube matters. Bing does matter too, but not as much as YouTube. As you're going through that process, what was my first step? My first step was to ask questions. Diane and Carrie said that earlier. Who are you? What do you do? You don't just blog, you don't just develop in WordPress. What do you do? Who are you? If you don't know, neither will Google. These are really hard questions to ask because nobody likes talking about yourself. But you have to do that self-discovery, and particularly about what makes you different, so that Google can understand that and better know who you are so it can better send the right traffic to you. What makes me different? It's my SEO. There's a ton of agencies out there. But I can give a website that's fully optimized and train you along the way. That's what I try to tell the search engines. That's why I write about SEO. That's why the talk today has SEO in the description and it links back to my sites. Those questions matter. And your target user. Who are they? They were talking about user personas earlier. User personas are important. If you don't know who's coming to your website and who should come, neither does Google. Who are those people? What are they looking for? They aren't just looking for parsley. They're looking for potentially recipes with parsley, or maybe healthy smoothie recipes that include parsley. Be descriptive. Be specific. That's how you win at SEO. It's how you've always won at SEO for 2 decades. If you help people, if you create an environment where you can provide solutions, the search engines will love you. I love Beaker. Experimentation is how I really learned SEO. Thankfully, you don't have to do that today because there's courses and there's blog posts and there's webinars and events like today where you can learn and digest The concern is making sure that you're learning from a valid source. Don't read a blog post 10 years ago that tells you go after the highest volume keyword. Make sure it's of quality. Because guess what? Keywords are still really, really important. They're just different today than they were before. How are they different? I've told you that they were longer. But search is changing. New users are coming online every day. Miley Ohe, who used to work for Google, was at WordCamp US. Something that she said truly resonated with me, and it made so much sense in how Google has been changing over the years. She said that Google has not even seen their target demographic. They haven't come online yet. They're in third world countries with crappy internet and phones. They don't have desktops. That's why mobile is becoming so important. That's why performance is so important. So you have to adapt with the search engines. These are the kind of questions people ask. My son asked the first one. Guess what Google came back with? We were having dinner and he wanted mac and cheese. And he's like, I'll just ask Google. Hey Google, is mac and cheese healthy? You know what she said? She's like, well, and she had the bright inflection in her voice, you could make it a lot healthier if you had a cauliflower. Let me give you a great recipe. And she started to tell my son how to make mac and cheese with cauliflower, and he deflated in his chair. He also asked her, what's the average age for a cell phone? Because he knows he's not getting one from me until he graduates 5th grade. Dang it, she came back and said 10 to 13. Well, he's 11. He truly wanted a cell phone. He looked at me, he's like, well, I didn't get mac and cheese healthy, but I am going to get a cell phone. That is today's user. That's how they search. Those are real searches that occur in my house and with my friends. Don't fight SEO. Don't fight the search engines. Embrace them. As that first page of search results changes and the map comes in and the knowledge panel takes over the top, don't stress. Pay attention to what it's doing. It's providing solutions. It's giving people answers to their questions. You have to embrace the search engines. You have to embrace SEO. You need to learn how to do SEO right. It is not a friggin' plugin. That's only part of the process. That process I showed you earlier with that big process flow and all those steps, that is true SEO. It's the same SEO it was decades ago, and it's the same way today. I said embrace who you are and know what makes you different and what makes you special. Who are you? What does your homepage or the main page of your blog say right now? Does it tell people what makes you special? Have you told Google what makes you special? As you sit through the conferences today and tomorrow, keep thinking about what makes you special, and then go look at your website or your blog and see if it's actually on there. Oops, I went a little bit too far. This is how I used to feel about SEO. And then you had Miss Peggy when she was at Dell and she was crying. That's how I felt about SEO. I don't feel like that today. I feel empowered. The reason I do education and I have an online course and I do free webinars for iThemes is so I can empower you. I want you to learn from my mistake of getting booted off of Google 10 years ago, 15 years ago, so that you can do it better. So that you can learn how to do SEO and you can excel. That's why you're here today, is because you want to do better. Learn SEO. Don't be afraid of it. Don't just rely on pay-per-click or Facebook ads. Learn SEO, because you can be on page one. If I can do it with my daughter watching Teletubbies, anybody can do it. That is the one thing I want you to take away today, is that you can be at the top of page one as long as you educate yourself. Okay, questions? We have time left, right? I think 10 minutes? Yeah. Yes?
What books would you recommend to learn SEO, or is there any type of resource?
So, no books. And the reason for no books is by the time the book gets published, SEO has changed. Google's changing the algorithm every single day, right? So no books. Go online. Find webinars, blog posts. Google has a free PDF called the Introduction to Search Engine Optimization. Search for that and throw PDF in there. They give you a guide. They show you what's important. They talk about link building and XML sitemaps and meta titles and meta descriptions. And they will reinforce what the Yoast plugin is doing for you, but tell you why. Mm-hmm.
You mentioned that when someone searches something on Google, either by
Yes.
I've noticed that oftentimes Google will pull snippets from websites. So
Yes.
My question is, how do you craft the content on your website so that Google uses your website to be that?
That is an excellent question. We call that position 0, by the way, because you're above everybody else. You create a solution. If you Google content silo, I'm going to show up in the knowledge graph. The reason I show up in the knowledge graph is because it is a long article. It gives you visuals. It explains what it is and why it matters. It's the best answer out there for people to easily understand what a content silo is. So stress not about all of the algorithms and all of those other things. Figure out how you can write better content than anybody else, and you'll start showing up in that knowledge graph. And don't be afraid of the knowledge graph, because people click through. What you've done to them with that knowledge graph by showing up there is you've built authority with that visitor before they've ever even touched your website. It's telling them that there's good content waiting for them, and click through, they're going to find more. Yes?
Have you combined AdWords with organic?
I believe pay-per-click is cocaine for marketers. You blow a bunch of money, you get a quick high, and you're left with nothing. My SEO is still sitting out there from 15 years ago, and the company hasn't done squat with it for about the last 7. It lasts forever if you've done it well. So no, I don't. I mean, you can, especially if you're like, your new site. Pay for pay-per-click if you want, but never rely on it. Always go long tail and long term. Yes?
Back in the day, you're talking about 15 years ago, people like you would call us and say, oh, we need to do your SEO. I would ask them a few questions, pick their brain a little bit. Search, never found them anywhere, but I found the program, so we did it ourselves. Is there a program?
For SEO? No, there's tools like the Yoast SEO plugin and KW Finder to help assist you, but there's no program, because the best SEO is people. A program's not going to help solve a user's problem.
There's nothing like goal positioning out there now?
No, it's all BS. Yes?
Question, do you have an amount for the keywords on a website, a preferred amount, 15, 30, 40, I don't know?
It completely depends on your target demographic, who you compete with. If you're local and you're a doctor in a city,
Right.
you might have 5 keywords for the whole website, right? If you're international or you're a store, you might have 5,000. It really is going to range, but if you go through that research and that mapping process, that's going to help define that, because the seed list and the results is for you to go, okay, is this relevant to me? Is this relevant to my user? You could have 10 of those, or you could have 50. That's your guide. What is going to help you reach your target demographic? Prove to them that you have some information so that they want to come in and ask for more. Pick up the phone, buy something, whatever that case is. Yes?
With all the increase in voice search now, does that change like the tactic on how to come up with voice search? It's really not the result, it's just what's read back to you.
Voice search goes off of the knowledge graph a lot of times. That stuff at the top, right? It's Google's extracting out. The way to show up is to make sure that you have a good answer. You're solving the problem. The reason my son got is cauliflower, or is mac and cheese healthy, and she went to that recipe because it was providing a way to make mac and cheese healthier. Yes?
So what do you get booted for these days? Loading up graphics with alt tags?
Yes. There's so many things that you can still get in trouble for. And the frustrating thing is the things that used to work, like we could put keywords in press releases and use those to link back to our website, bad. Those developers in here that are linking back to your website from your clients' websites and that are using keywords in the footer, bad. Don't do that. That's the kind of stuff you're starting to get in trouble for. And Google's getting better and better, but they're very transparent. They're telling you. Right? And if you're reading their documentation and their blog posts, you're seeing it coming. Yes?
So after you got blackballed by Google,
Did I get back?
how did you get back?
Back then, I petitioned Google and I said, really, I was just a stupid marketer, and literally I'm teaching myself when my daughter was watching Teletubbies. I obviously did something wrong. I tried to fix everything I thought that might have been wrong. They did put me back in, but we were damaged. And we had already started a new URL, and I had to build up another URL to compete against Microsoft. But guess what? I did it. And we grew that company 400% in 2 years. And it was all based on SEO. Yes?
What did you say the tool was optimized for voice?
There is no tool. It's to provide a good solution, right? But look at, when you're trying to optimize for voice, think about what people are asking. How do I? What is? Where is? It's a lot of questions. And think about those answers and just make a very good piece of content. Yes?
Do you have anything to suggest other than Yoast, as Yoast has had an issue with security issues?
All-in-one is another good plugin. I would trust both of them. The only problem I have with all-in-one is they don't have a focus keyword, so you can have multiple focus and confuse yourself and confuse Google.
What's the alternative? Just work with your programmer and put in all the metadata?
You can, but I wouldn't. I'd use Yoast.
I've had security issues with performance man, and I'm plugging updates, but you have to be on it.
You do need to update, just like anything else, yeah. But I mean, I've never had a hacking through Yoast on my site or any of my client sites. I completely trust him, and here's why you should trust that plugin. He is an SEO, first and foremost, right? He's a consultant. He's a developer, second. He gets warnings from Google and when they're making changes so that he can put that into the plugin. Your theme developer doesn't know that. The developers who are copying them and creating SEO plugins all the time, they don't know that either. You don't see them at SEO conferences. You see Yoast at SEO conferences and his team. That's who you trust. Yes?
So what happens if you use the same keyword on 10 blog posts on the same website?
Okay, so you're Google. I'd like to send people to your blog, but I don't know which one to send because you're focused 10 different blog posts on the same one. You're competing with yourself. You're confusing yourself, your visitors, and Google will just ignore you. Make a path. Create that destination. Yes?
Sorry for my voice. Is there any main way to kind of exploit the blind spots in the algorithm to...
Why do you want to do that?
Like basically, in a sense, get yourself to the top by how the computer judges it, not necessarily by how the user judges it.
There are ways to do it. It's called black hat SEO. And if it doesn't bite you in the butt quick, it will in the long term. You've lost track of the main focus of SEO and whatever your website or blog is. It's to help people. When you try to game the system, you're trying to help yourself.
Well, my goal personally is to get to the top because I accidentally created a website that turned out 3 years ago was a very, very popular hashtag. And of course, with my luck, I chose that domain name. So now I'm at the bottom, but so many people have posted, even though it's inactive, I can't get to the top.
So think past the hashtag, think about what your visitor needs, and start creating content for that. What are their problems, and how can you deliver information, whether it be videos or articles, to provide a solution? That's how you get back to the top. Yes?
There's not much time left. You didn't really talk very much about local SEO.
So here's what's important in local SEO. Very similar to you do the same process I had up there. The difference is you have a few more factors that are important. Having the phone number with the actual area code and the address on your website, and don't just put it in your contact page, put it in your footer, or have your phone number up in the header, which that allows Google to say, I understand this content is related to this geographical area throughout the site. Getting on Google My Business and having a local profile, getting reviews. Reviews are really important locally, and I know it's hard to get them. Connect your account so Google understands where your Facebook page is and the reviews there. All of that together matters.
And the SERP, the 3-pack?
Same, to show up in the map, that 3-pack, make the descriptions very, very important. Not the description, the category. You have to make sure you have the right category.
Talk to you after this?
Yes, I'm here, by the way, for the next 2 days. Hit me up for free advice. I'm happy to give it, yes. Oh, we're done? Okay, sorry.
What's your website? Did you have information?
If you go to RebeccaGill.com, you will find links to all of my websites, as well as other presentations and videos and things like that.
Send us back to slide 1.
To which one? Oh, I'm sorry. There I am. Yeah, Rebecca Gill will link to the other things. I do have training, online course, in-person workshop that is coming up in May. And then I'm doing a virtual SEO summit, 3 days with iThemes.
Are you here in Miami or where?
I'm out of Michigan. I just flew down to CLU so I could get a link back.